The G20 leaders are already in Osaka, Japan for the G20 meeting. The initial rhetoric pulled down the Asian stocks, but European markets are taking a bit of a different path as we wake up to a new morning, the final trading day. This meeting will just move on over the weekend. Then we'll come back on Monday. Then we'll go straight to Vienna for the Austrian capital for the OPEC Plus meeting. So quite a lot to digest. But again, let's look at the road we've traveled since Monday. Juliana Olayinka, my colleague from our London studios, is in here into the conversation. Thank you, morning, Juliana. Let's get this conversation started. It was a very busy week, I'm sure, for you with the Bloomberg emerging and frontier markets. So one of the big stories this week has been that. Then, of course, Boris Johnson, we also talked about that the week, what's to find out what is in his own plan. Where is the show me the money in his plan for Brexit and all of that. Can you recap for us?
Good morning, Bosun. Well, I must say, and I don't want to disappoint you or our viewers, but wait and see have been the watchwords of the UK economy this week. The UK economy are waiting to see who will be the next UK Prime Minister. The economy is waiting to see if we can secure a deal in our messy divorce from the European Union. And of course, like the rest of the world, we're waiting to see if trade tensions can be eased once Xi Jinping and Donald Trump meet tomorrow on the sidelines of the G20. One thing I can be sure about is the FTSE, which crept into positive territory this morning, opening up 8 points higher at 0.1%. This is due to reports that the UK PM frontrunner Boris Johnson would be liking and looking like he'll be cutting stamp duty, which has seen house builders receive an influx of interest this morning. In currencies, sterling has fallen to a new 5-month low today as investors continue to fret about their favorite topic at the moment, which is the possibility of a no-deal Brexit if Boris Johnson wins the Conservative Party leadership race.
Times of coverage of news and events. So far this week, I'm sure the Bloomberg event was one of the top one for you this week. What did you learn from those interviews and sitting there and listening to those folks that you did, the Bloomberg EU HQ over there?
Quite interesting, I would say. If you looked around the room, you wouldn't have thought that you were in the UK. Of course, it was opened by the master himself, Michael Bloomberg. And of course, considering that the theme was talking about emerging markets, all you were seeing in the room was a lot of Middle East investors. There were a couple of people from America and, of course, Africa. I must say, sub-Saharan Africa didn't have a fantastic showing. We did, of course, have our immediate past finance minister appearing to kind of show support for the rest of the continent. But I must say, it seems as if everybody is looking towards China, everybody is looking towards the Middle East over the next 10 or so years. And they talked a lot about culture in the discussions of trade and not having so much bias being placed on the West. And of course, again, Trump dominated some of the discussions because of his trade disputes with Iran, with China, and now India are being dragged along. So very interesting, actually, Bosun.
Yes, President Trump doesn't have to be in any meeting these days, from boardrooms to conferences. He's always there with his tweet and with everyone talking about him from dinner table and all of that. So the world is talking about him and he's talking about the rest of the world. And you just try to summarize that. But the G20 meeting yesterday, well, opening sequence, as it were, Mr. President was already saying it's none of your business what we discussed with Vladimir Putin of Russia and all of that. Then when they were finished up by Sunday, by Monday, the oil chiefs will be meeting in Vienna for very, very crucial OPEC Plus meeting. So it looks like a very busy Friday all the way through till Tuesday next week.
It's going to be very busy, and as you said, Bosun, Trump has made it abundantly clear that his priority at this summit is to boost the US economy, which, if it's not done with caution, could cause a threat to the global economy. We've already seen a glimmer of this with his tough-talking tweets, as you mentioned. Asian shares stumbled overnight. Gold prices also slipped as expectations have dimmed amid rising doubts that the highly anticipated meeting of the leaders of the world's two biggest economies would not bring in any progress. On top of this, there's certainly an air of diplomatic urgency going into the OPEC gathering next week. Tensions between the US and Iran are certainly keeping markets on edge. Now, OPEC and some non-members, including Russia, will hold meetings in Vienna during the first week of July to decide whether to extend their supply cuts. And of course, as you know, Bosun, Iran play a significant role in this, as just 2 weeks ago, tankers were attacked in the Strait of Hormuz, through which 40% of the world's crude ships pass there each week.
Yes, okay, so a quick one to wrap it up. The UK FCA, that's the Financial Conduct Authority, just says it's launching a new review of credit information markets. Is this something that you want to spare a few seconds to talk about to wrap it up with us?
Yeah, very interesting. Yesterday, the Financial Conduct Authority launched a market study to examine how the credit information market operates and the impact it has on consumers and how it may develop in the future. Now, this has been done in an effort to identify concerns about the coverage and quality of credit information, the effectiveness of competition between credit agencies, because it's very competitive, and the extent of consumer engagement. Now, the FCA will report on its preliminary findings in spring 2020. So a lot of people on edge, but good news for the customers.
Yeah, we're just getting our credit market, information market set up here. So I'm sure quite a lot to learn from you folks in the UK when it comes to that. Thank you so much. See you in the afternoon, lunchtime, with Chimeze on our Business Incorporated. Until then, thank you. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.